The rescue. The vast emptiness of space stretched out before Captain Alexis Chen as she stood on the bridge of the UAS horizon. The exploratory vessel's mission to chart this uncharted sector of the Orion Arm had been uneventful so far, almost boring if she was being honest. But Alexis knew better than to wish for excitement out here in the depths of space. "Captain, I'm picking up an anomalous reading," her science officer, Lieutenant Raj Patel, called out suddenly. "Looks like a ship's signature, but it's very faint." Alexis strode over to his station, peering at the sensor readouts. Location: approximately 2 light-years from our current position, ma'am. It appears to be adrift. Any life signs? Raj shook his head. Nothing I can detect at this range, but if there are survivors, their life support could be failing. Alexis straightened, her mind racing as she weighed their options. They were under strict orders not to deviate from their charted course without prior approval. But if there was even a chance of survivors, "Helm, alter course to intercept," she ordered. "Maximum safe speed." "Aye, aye, Captain," the helmsman responded crisply. As they closed in on the mystery ship over the next several hours, more details became clear. It was clearly of alien design, unlike anything in Earth's database, and it had suffered catastrophic damage. "My God," Alexis breathed as they drew alongside the crippled vessel. Its sleek hull was pockmarked with holes and scorch marks. Debris floated in a cloud around it. Whatever had happened here, it had been violent. "Still no life signs," Raj reported grimly. "Wait, correction. I'm picking up one extremely faint biosignature, barely registering." Alexis's jaw tightened. One survivor against all odds. "Prep a boarding team," she ordered. "Full hazard gear. I'll lead the expedition myself." Her first officer, Commander David Wu, looked alarmed. "Captain, I must object. We have no idea what we're dealing with here. This could be a first contact situation, or a trap." "Noted, Commander," Alexis replied, already heading for the turbolift. "But I'm not leaving someone to die out here if we can help it. You have the con." Minutes later, Alexis led a small team across to the alien vessel via a flexible docking tube. The interior was dark and cold, their helmet lights cutting swaths through the gloom. Dead consoles and strange alien script lined the walls. "Life support's offline," one of the engineers reported. "Atmosphere's thin, barely breathable. Whatever happened, it was a while ago." They made their way deeper into the ship, following the faint life sign. As they entered what appeared to be the bridge, Alexis's breath caught in her throat. Sprawled across an alien control console was a small, delicate figure. Its skin was a pale lavender, shot through with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed weakly. Large, almond-shaped eyes were closed in what Alexis hoped was simply unconsciousness. "My God," she breathed, "it's just a child." The alien girl couldn't have been more than the equivalent of 10 or 11 in human years. What she was doing alone on this ship was a mystery, one that would have to wait. "We need to get her to sickbay immediately," Alexis ordered, gently lifting the frail alien form. "Alert Dr. Emerson to prep for an unknown xenobiological patient." As they rushed back to the horizon, Alexis cradled the alien child carefully. She was light, far too light, and cold to the touch. But she was alive. Against all odds, they had found her in time. Back aboard the horizon, Dr. Sarah Emerson and her medical team swarmed around the alien girl as soon as she was brought into sickbay. "Fascinating," Dr. Emerson murmured as she ran her scanners over the child. "Her biology is like nothing I've ever seen. Some kind of silicon-based life form, but with elements I can't even begin to classify." "Can you help her?" Alexis asked urgently. Sarah's brow furrowed. "I'll do my best, Captain, but we're in uncharted territory here. I can't even be certain what's normal for her species." Over the next several hours, Alexis paced sickbay as Dr. Emerson and her team worked feverishly to stabilize that alien patient. Finally, Sarah approached with a tired but satisfied expression. "She's stable for now," the doctor reported. "Still unconscious, but her vital signs are strengthening. Whatever happened to her, she's a fighter." Alexis nodded, relief flooding through her. "Good work, doctor. Keep me updated on any changes." She turned to leave, but Sarah caught her arm. "Captain, there's something else you should know," the doctor said quietly. "While I was examining her, I detected some kind of energy readings coming from her body. Nothing like I've ever seen before, almost like she was generating her own power source." Alexis frowned. "What are you saying?" "I'm not sure," Sarah admitted, "but I don't think this is just any alien child. There's something very special about her, and very strange." Before Alexis could respond, a priority communication came through from the bridge. "Captain, to the bridge immediately," Commander Wu's voice crackled. "We have a situation." When Alexis arrived on the bridge moments later, she found the crew in a state of controlled chaos. "Report," she barked. "We're picking up multiple warp signatures approaching at high speed," Raj reported tensely. "Configuration unknown, but they're on an intercept course." Alexis's mind raced. Had they stumbled into some kind of interstellar conflict? Time to intercept. "At present speed, 18 minutes, the tactical officer replied. "Yellow alert," Alexis ordered. "Shields up, weapons on standby. Let's not jump to conclusions, but be ready for anything." As the minutes ticked by, tension mounted on the bridge. Finally, the alien ships dropped out of warp, 5 of them, arranged in an attack formation. "They're hailing us," the comms officer reported. Alexis took a deep breath. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing an alien bridge. The beings there were vaguely insectoid, with segmented bodies and multifaceted eyes. Their mandibles clicked as one of them spoke, the universal translator struggling to keep up. "Unidentified vessel," the alien's harsh voice grated. "You have interfered in matters beyond your comprehension. Surrender the abomination you rescued immediately, or be destroyed." Alex's eyes narrowed. "This is Captain Alexis Chen of the Earth ship Horizon. We responded to a distress signal and rescued a survivor, as any civilized species would do. I don't know what quarrel you have with her, but she's under our protection now." The alien's multifaceted eyes seemed to flash with anger. "You fool. That survivor is a threat to this entire sector. It must be eliminated before it fully awakens. This is your final warning. Surrender it, or we will open fire." Alexis's jaw clenched. Whatever was going on here, she wasn't about to hand over an injured child to be executed. "I'm afraid I can't do that," she replied coolly. "But I invite you to open a dialogue and explain the situation. Perhaps we can find a peaceful resolution." The alien's mandibles clicked furiously. "So be it. Your primitive species will learn the price of meddling in affairs beyond your understanding." The view screen went dark. Moments later, energy signatures flared as the alien vessels powered up their weapons. "Red alert," Alexis barked. "All hands to battle stations. Evasive maneuvers." As the first salvos of alien weapons fire lanced out towards the horizon, Alexis gripped the arms of her command chair. They were outnumbered and outgunned, facing an unknown enemy for reasons she didn't fully understand. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty: she would not abandon that child to die. Whatever the cost, the horizon would stand its ground. The battle was joined, and humanity's first major interstellar conflict had begun. In sickbay, unnoticed by the frantic crew, the alien girl's eyes snapped open, glowing with an otherworldly light. First contact. As the horizon shuddered under the onslaught of alien weapons fire, Dr. Sarah Emerson struggled to keep her footing in sickbay. The ship's inertial dampeners were straining to compensate for the evasive maneuvers, and equipment rattled ominously on nearby trays. But Sarah's focus remained locked on her alien patient. The child's eyes were open now, glowing with an eerie inner light. Her delicate form was rigid, almost vibrating with tension. "It's all right," Sarah said softly, trying to project calm despite the chaos around them. "You're safe here. We're trying to help you." The alien girl's gaze snapped to Sarah's face. There was intelligence there, and something else, a depth that seemed far beyond her apparent years. Her mouth opened, but instead of speech, a wave of sensation washed over Sarah. Images flashed through the doctor's mind, a vast, ancient civilization, terrible weapons of unimaginable power, a desperate plan to preserve something precious, and underneath it all, a sense of overwhelming urgency. Sarah gasped, staggering back. "My God," she breathed. "You're trying to communicate, aren't you?" The alien child nodded slowly, her luminous eyes never leaving Sarah's face. She raised a slender hand, pointing insistently towards the door. "You want to go to the bridge?" Sarah hazarded. Another nod, more emphatic this time. Sarah bit her lip, conflicted. Her medical training screamed that the child was in no condition to be moved, but her instincts told her that this was vitally important. "All right," she said finally, "but I'm coming with you." On the bridge, Captain Chen was fighting a losing battle. The Horizon's shields were down to 30%, and they'd barely managed to scratch the alien vessel's defenses. "Evasive pattern Delta," she barked. "Concentrate fire on their lead ship's propulsion systems." The Horizon banked hard, narrowly avoiding another barrage of energy weapons. Their return fire splashed harmlessly against the alien flagship's shields. "Captain," Commander Wu said grimly, "we can't keep this up much longer. We need to consider." He was cut off as the turbolift doors hissed open. Dr. Emerson stumbled onto the bridge, supporting the alien child. "What the hell?" Alexis snapped. "Doctor, what are you?" Her words died in her throat as the alien girl raised her hands. A soft glow emanated from her palms, spreading to encompass the entire bridge. Suddenly, Alexis felt a presence in her mind, alien, yet somehow familiar. "Please," a voice that wasn't quite a voice whispered, "let me help." Without fully understanding why, Alexis nodded. The alien child closed her eyes in concentration. On the view screen, the attacking vessels suddenly froze in space, as if caught in invisible webs. "What's happening?" Rach asked, bewildered. "Their systems are going haywire. Weapons, shields, propulsion, everything's shutting down." The alien girl swayed, clearly exhausted by the effort, but her eyes locked with Alexis's, and another wave of communication flowed between them. "Thank you for saving me," the child's mental voice whispered, "but I'm afraid the danger has only begun." As the crew of the Horizon struggled to process what had just happened, the communications panel chimed. "Captain," the comms officer reported, "we're being hailed. It's Starfleet Command." Alexis's heart sank. She had known this was coming from the moment they'd altered course to investigate the distress signal. Taking a deep breath, she straightened her uniform. "On screen," she ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the stern visage of Admiral Helena Yoshida. Her expression was thunderous. "Captain Chen," she said icily, "would you care to explain why you've apparently sparked an interstellar incident?" Alexis stood at attention. "Admiral, we responded to a distress signal and rescued a lone survivor from a damaged alien vessel. We were then attacked without provocation by unknown hostiles. We defended ourselves and—" "Enough," Yoshida cut her off. "I'm looking at reports of weapons fire exchanged, unknown energy phenomena, and now 5 alien ships dead in space. Do you have any idea of the diplomatic nightmare you've created?" "With all due respect, Admiral," Alexis replied, fighting to keep her voice steady, "we were faced with an impossible situation. These aliens demanded we hand over an injured child for execution. I couldn't in good conscience." "Your conscience is not the issue here, Captain," Yoshida snapped. "You were under strict orders not to deviate from your assigned course without authorization. Instead, you've committed us to a potential war with an unknown species." The alien child stepped forward then, her luminous eyes fixed on the view screen. Admiral Yoshida's tirade faltered as she took in the strange being. "What in God's name?" the Admiral breathed. The girl raised her hand, and once again that sense of mental communication washed over the bridge. But this time, it wasn't just directed at Alexis. Everyone present, including the Admiral, felt the touch of that alien mind. "Please," the child's voice echoed in their thoughts. "You must listen. The fate of your world, of all worlds, hangs in the balance." For a long moment, there was silence on the bridge. Then Admiral Yoshida seemed to shake herself. "Captain Chen," she said, her voice noticeably less harsh. "Clearly, there's more going on here than we realized. You and your guest are to report to Starbase 47 immediately for debriefing. We'll sort this mess out there." As the view screen went dark, Alexis let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. She turned to the alien child, who was looking up at her with those unsettlingly ancient eyes. "I think," Alexis said softly, "it's time you told us who you really are." The girl nodded solemnly. "My name," her mental voice whispered, "is Zara, and I am the last of the Guardians." Over the next few hours, as the horizon limped towards Starbase 47, Zara's story unfolded. The crew gathered in the conference room, listening in awe and growing horror as the child shared her tale through a mixture of telepathy and newly learned English. Zara's people, the Luminae, were an ancient race. They had achieved interstellar travel when humanity's ancestors were still swinging through trees. But with their advancement came a terrible discovery: they were not alone in the universe, and not all that lurked between the stars was benevolent. "The Devourers," Zara said aloud, her voice soft but filled with dread. "That is what we called them. They are hunger-given form, cosmic parasites that consume entire civilizations." Images flashed through the minds of the assembled crew, worlds laid waste, stars snuffed out, entire species erased from existence. "My people fought them for millennia," Zara continued. "We created weapons, defenses, but it was never enough. They always returned, always hungry." "So what changed?" Alexis asked gently. Zara's luminous eyes met hers. "We realized we could not destroy them. So instead, we sought to contain them. We created me and others like me." Understanding dawned on Dr. Emerson's face. "The energy readings I detected," she breathed. "You're not just a child, are you?" Zara shook her head sadly. "I am a guardian, a living key created to seal the Devourers away in pocket dimensions. My body, my very essence, is the lock that keeps them trapped." The implications were staggering. This child, if she could be called that, was a weapon of unimaginable power. A last desperate gambit by a dying race to save the universe from annihilation. "The aliens who attacked us," Commander Wu said slowly, "they knew what you were. They wanted to destroy you." "Yes," Zara confirmed, "they are the Keftal. Once, they were thralls of the Devourers. My people freed them, but the experience broke something in their species. Now they seek to unleash the very horrors we imprisoned, believing it will grant them power." Alexis leaned forward, her mind reeling from the scale of what they'd stumbled into. "Zara," she said carefully, "why were you alone on that ship? Where are the other Guardians?" Sorrow filled the child's alien features. "Gone," she whispered. "I am the last. The Keftal hunted us down, one by one. I fled, hoping to find a safe haven, but they followed." A heavy silence fell over the conference room. The crew of the Horizon exchanged troubled glances, the weight of this revelation settling over them like a shroud. "So what happens now?" Lieutenant Patel asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Zara's gaze swept the room, settling finally on Alexis. "Now," she said, her mental voice resonating with grim determination, "we prepare, for the Keftal will not stop. And if they succeed in destroying me, the seals will break. The Devourers will be unleashed once more." "And then?" Alexis prompted, though she feared she already knew the answer. Zora's eyes seemed to glow brighter, filled with the weight of cosmic horror. And then, she said simply, everything ends. As the horizon approached Starbase 47, Alexis knew that humanity had just been thrust onto a stage far larger and more terrifying than they had ever imagined. The coming days would determine not just the fate of Earth, but of all life in the galaxy. And at the center of it all was this impossible child, last of an ancient race, carrying the hopes of countless civilizations on her small shoulders. Alexis made a silent vow then and there. Whatever came next, Zara would not face it alone. Humanity had entered the cosmic war, and they would stand against the darkness, no matter the cost. Battle in the void. The horizon docked at Starbase 47 under a cloud of tension. As soon as they were secure, a team of high-ranking Starfleet officials and xenobiologists swarmed aboard, eager to debrief the crew and examine Zara. Captain Chen stood protectively near the young Guardian, wary of overwhelming her. Admiral Yoshida strode onto the bridge, her face a mask of carefully controlled concern. "Captain Chen," she said briskly, "I trust you understand the gravity of this situation." Alexis nodded. "Yes, Admiral. But with all due respect, Zara isn't just some scientific curiosity or diplomatic bargaining chip. She's a sentient being under our protection," Yoshida finished, surprising Alexis. The Admiral's expression softened slightly. "I've reviewed your initial reports, Captain. While I don't approve of how this situation arose, I understand why you acted as you did. Now, we need to figure out our next move." Before Alexis could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the starbase. Lieutenant Peto's fingers flew over his console. "Multiple ships dropping out of warp," he shouted. "It's the Kiftal. A whole fleet this time." Alexis's blood ran cold. How did they find us so quickly? Zara's mental voice touched their minds. "They can sense me. As long as I live, they will never stop hunting." Admiral Yoshida was already barking orders into her communicator. "This is Admiral Yoshida. Red alert. All ships, battle stations, prepare to repel hostile forces." Alexis turned to her crew. "Get us back out there. We're not sitting this fight out." As the horizon disengaged from the starbase, Alexis could see the Kiftal fleet arrayed before them. Dozens of ships, that alien designs bristling with weaponry. Against them stood a handful of Starfleet vessels and the starbase's defenses. "We're outgunned," Commander Wu said grimly. "Maybe," Alexis replied, her jaw set. "But we're not outmatched. Not with Zara on our side." The young Guardian stood on the bridge, her small form seeming to radiate power. "I will help," her voice whispered in their minds. "But be warned, using my abilities may draw the attention of worse things." Alexis nodded grimly. "Understood. But right now, we don't have much choice." All ships engaged the enemy. The void of space lit up with weapons fire as the battle was joined. The horizon dove into the fray, its phasers lancing out at the nearest Kiftal vessel. On the bridge, Zara's eyes glowed with otherworldly light as she extended her consciousness. Suddenly, 3 of the Kiftal ships found their weapon systems offline, their shields flickering and failing. The Starfleet vessels pressed the advantage, concentrating their fire on the weakened targets. But the Kiftal were not so easily defeated. Their remaining ships unleashed a barrage of energy weapons, unlike anything Starfleet had encountered. The horizon shuddered as glancing blows struck its shields. "Shields down to 60%, Lieutenant Peto reported. Alexis gritted her teeth. Evasive pattern Delta. Concentrate fire on their lead vessel. The battle raged on, a deadly dance of energy beams and explosions. The Starfleet ships fought valiantly, but they were slowly being overwhelmed by the Kiftal's superior numbers and technology. Zara stumbled, her small frame shaking with exertion. "Captain," her mental voice was strained. "I cannot hold them back much longer. And something is coming." As if in response to her words, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. A massive shape began to emerge from the rift, a nightmarish amalgamation of flesh and metal, larger than any ship in either fleet. "My God," Admiral Yoshida breathed, her face pale. "What is that thing?" A devourer. Zara's mental voice was filled with terror. "My efforts to suppress the Kithtoll have weakened the dimensional barriers. It sensed the conflict and broke through." The monstrous entity let out a psychic scream that resonated through every mind on the battlefield. Both Starfleet and Kithtoll ships reeled from the assault. "All ships, fall back," Admiral Yoshida ordered. "Regroup around the starbase." But retreat was impossible. The Devourer's massive form blocked their escape route, tendrils of eldritch energy lashing out to ensnare nearby vessels. Where they touched, metal corroded and organic matter withered. Alexis watched in horror as a Kithtoll ship was pulled into the Devourer's maw, crushed and consumed in moments. This was beyond anything they were prepared to face. "Zara," she said urgently, turning to the young Guardian, "how do we stop this thing?" The alien child's eyes were wide with fear and determination. "We cannot defeat it, not here. But I can send it back, seal the breach. But doing so will take all of my strength. I may not survive." Alexis felt her heart clench. They had only known Zara for a short time, but the thought of sacrificing this remarkable being was abhorrent. And yet, if they did nothing, everything would be lost. "There has to be another way," Alexis insisted. Zara's mental voice was gentle but firm. "There isn't. This is why I was created, Captain. To stand against the darkness, no matter the cost." Before Alexis could argue further, the Devourer's attention turned to the horizon. A massive tendril of twisted energy lashed out towards them. "Brace for impact," Alexis shouted. But the blow never landed. Zara stood at the front of the bridge, her small hands raised. A shield of pure light surrounded the horizon, deflecting the Devourer's attack. "Now, Captain," Zara's mental voice rang with command. "Get us closer. I need to be near the dimensional tear to seal it." Alexis hesitated for just a moment, then nodded grimly. "Helm, take us in." Full impulse. The horizon surged forward, dodging debris and energy blasts from both Kithtoll and the Devourer. As they approached the writhing tear in space-time, Zara's body began to glow with increasing intensity. "Thank you," her voice whispered in Alexis's mind. "For saving me, for believing in me. Remember what I've taught you. The fight isn't over." Before Alexis could respond, Zara's form erupted in blinding light. The energy engulfed the bridge, the ship, expanding outward to encompass the entire battlefield. For a moment, everything was silent and still. Then, with a sound like reality itself tearing, the Devourer was wrenched backwards. It thrashed and fought, but Zara's power pulled it inexorably back through the dimensional rift. The tear began to close, sealing the cosmic horror away once more. As the light faded, Alexis blinked spots from her eyes. Where Zara had stood, there was now only empty space. "Life signs?" she asked hoarsely. Lieutenant Patel shook his head, his voice choked. "None detected, Captain." A heavy silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the beeping of consoles and the distant rumble of the ship's engines. They had won, but at a terrible cost. Admiral Yoshida's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain Chen, what just happened?" Alexis stared at the spot where Zara had been, her throat tight. "She saved us, Admiral. She saved everyone. And now we have to make sure her sacrifice wasn't in vain." As the remaining ships regrouped, tending to their wounded and assessing the damage, Alexis knew that this was only the beginning. The Kithtoll was still out there, and worse things lurked in the dark between stars. But humanity had faced its trial by fire. They had stood against cosmic horrors and emerged, battered but unbroken, and they carried with them the legacy of a small, brave guardian who had given everything to protect them. Whatever came next, they would face it together. For Zara, for Earth, for the entire galaxy that now looked to them as defenders against the encroaching darkness. The battle was over. The war had just begun. Revelations. In the days following the battle at Starbase 47, a somber mood settled over the crew of the Horizon. The loss of Zara weighed heavily on everyone, especially Captain Chen. As they underwent debriefings and repairs, Alexis found herself constantly replaying those final moments in her mind, wondering if there had been another way. It was during one of these moments of reflection that Dr. Emerson burst into her ready room, eyes wide with excitement. "Captain, you need to see this," she said breathlessly. Intrigued, Alexis followed the doctor to sickbay. There, on a view screen, was a series of complex energy readings. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" Alexis asked. Sarah's eyes sparkled. "It's Zara, Captain, or rather, it's her energy signature. I've been analyzing the data from our encounter with the Devourer, and I found this. It's faint, but it's there." Alexis felt her heart rate quicken. "Are you saying she's alive?" "Not exactly," Sarah replied, "but not gone either. I think she might have dispersed herself, became pure energy to seal the breach." The implications were staggering. If Zara wasn't truly gone, could she be brought back? And what did this mean for their fight against the Kithtal and the Devourers? Before Alexis could fully process this information, an urgent communication came through from Starfleet Command. Admiral Yoshida's face appeared on the screen, her expression grave. "Captain Chen, we have a situation," she said without preamble. "We've detected multiple dimensional anomalies across several sectors. It seems Zara's actions may have had unintended consequences." Alexis felt a chill run down her spine. "What kind of consequences, Admiral?" "The barriers between dimensions are weakening," Yoshida explained. "We're picking up signs of incursions, things coming through, things like the Devourer." The weight of this news settled heavily on Alexis's shoulders. They had won the battle, but at what cost? Had Zara's sacrifice inadvertently opened the door to something worse? "What are our orders?" Alexis asked, already knowing she wouldn't like the answer. Yoshida's face was grim. "We're assembling a task force. Your experience with these entities makes the Horizon uniquely qualified. You're to investigate these anomalies and find a way to close them, permanently." As the communication ended, Alexis turned to Dr. Emerson. "Looks like we're going to need Zara after all, Doctor. Find a way to bring her back." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. As the Horizon set out to investigate the dimensional rifts, Dr. Emerson and her team worked tirelessly to find a way to reconstitute Zara's energy signature. Meanwhile, reports flooded in from across the sector, strange sightings, unexplained phenomena, and growing panic among the populations of numerous worlds. It was during their approach to the third anomaly that everything changed. As they neared the swirling vortex of energy, alarms blared across the bridge. "Captain, something's coming through," Lieutenant Patel shouted. Alexis braced herself, expecting another nightmarish devourer. But what emerged from the rift took everyone by surprise. It was a ship, but like nothing they had ever seen before. Its design was organic, almost alive, pulsing with the same ethereal energy they had seen in Zara. "We're being hailed," the communications officer reported, sounding bewildered. On screen, Alexis ordered, her heart pounding. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a bridge not unlike their own. But the beings operating it were clearly not human. They were tall, slender creatures with luminous skin and eyes that seemed to hold the depth of galaxies. One of them stepped forward, its gaze locking onto Alexis. When it spoke, the voice resonated directly in their minds, achingly familiar. "Greetings, humans of the Horizon. We are the Luminae. We have come in search of our lost child." Stunned silence fell over the bridge. Alexis found her voice first. "You're Zara's people, but she said you were gone." The Luminae's expression was both sad and knowing. "Not gone, hidden. We sealed ourselves away to protect the younger races from the Devourers, but Zara's actions have awakened us. We felt her sacrifice across the cosmos." As the implications of this sank in, Dr. Emerson's voice came urgently over the comm. "Captain, "You need to get down here. Something's happening." In sickbay, they found a swirling vortex of energy coalescing around the containment field where they had been studying Zara's remnants. As they watched in awe, the energy took shape, forming into a familiar small figure. Zara stood before them once more, her eyes blinking open as if awakening from a long sleep. "Hello, Captain," her mental voice whispered. "I told you the fight wasn't over." The reunion was joyous but brief. There was no time for lengthy explanations or celebrations. The dimensional rifts were growing more unstable by the hour, and the Kiftal were rallying their forces. Aboard the Luminae ship, Alexis and her senior staff met with the alien leaders. The full scope of the cosmic conflict was laid bare before them. The Devourers were not just monsters, but a fundamental force of entropy, seeking to unravel the very fabric of reality. The Luminae had fought them for eons, but now they were weakening. "So what do we do?" Alexis asked, feeling the weight of galaxies on her shoulders. The Luminae leader's eyes gleamed with a mixture of hope and trepidation. "We have a plan," the mental voice echoed, "but it will require something from your people that we had not dared hope for." The Devourers feed on advanced civilizations, on complex thought and technology. But humans, you are different. Zara stepped forward, her small hand taking Alexis. "Your species is young, Captain, but remarkably adaptable. You have a quality we call sheer bloody-mindedness. You don't give up, even when all hope seems lost." The plan, when it was laid out, seemed both breathtakingly simple and terrifyingly audacious. The Luminae would use their technology to enhance humanity's latent psychic potential. Volunteers would be transformed into new guardians, living keys like Zara, capable of sealing the rifts and containing the Devourers. But the process was dangerous, irreversible, and would require unimaginable sacrifice from those who underwent it. As Alexis looked around at her crew, she saw determination in their eyes. Humanity had been thrust onto the cosmic stage, and they would not falter now. "We'll do it," she said firmly, "whatever it takes." The Luminae leader's mental voice resonated with gratitude and respect. "Then let us begin, for the fate of all realities hangs in the balance." As preparations got underway, Alexis found a quiet moment with Zara. The young guardian looked up at her with those ancient, knowing eyes. "Are you afraid?" Zara asked gently. Alexis smiled wryly. "Terrified," she admitted. "But someone once taught me that true courage isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what's right, even when you're afraid." Zara's mental laughter was like chimes in the wind. "You humans," she said fondly, "always surprising us. Perhaps that's why you're exactly what the universe needs right now." As alarms sounded, signaling the approach of another dimensional rift, Alexis squared her shoulders. Whatever came next, humanity would face it head-on. They had found their place in the cosmos, standing as guardians against the darkness. The next chapter of their grand adventure was about to begin.